Sometimes a few changes from the same opponent can make the match feel very different. Other times, opponents of varying shapes, sizes, and skills elicit a deja vu feeling as if you've played many times over. The feelings we experience, whether it's a sense of urgency, panic, impulse, etc., is determined by the type of pressure your opponent is creating. Granted, some opponents are cluelessly random or game plan with new strategy from match to match, but there is always a cause and effect. We discussed what poke, brawl, and dive are trying to accomplish, but how does it feel being on the recipient's end? Or given our own playstyle, what should the opponent feel? If the player has no endgame in mind, that often results in non-purposeful shots which move them further from the goalpost of their primary strategy. The fastest way to get from point A to point B is in a straight line, and that's why today we're dialing in that compass. The Brawler Effect. The brawler wants the opponent to feel constant pressure. Think machine gunner who's got a big clip and is firing away, which is a visible pressure because you see the bullets flying in your direction. The brawler wants to get in your face and occupy your attention, as a reminder that the longer the fight goes, the more likely you are to lose. As the clock ticks down, the brawler's opponent can 1. Use more energy to fight back, 2. Relieve that pressure by giving up space, or 3. Taking unnecessary risk pulling the trigger early. Whether you play a defensive brawler who makes 30 balls like David Ferrer, or an offensive brawler like Wawrinka, opponents start to rush once their body starts to break down and their options begin to dwindle. The Poker Effect. The poker wants the opponent to feel threatened to elicit a fight or flight response. Think sniper, who can accurately pick off anyone in the open, which makes players A. too scared to peek the sightlines and play overly passive, which essentially allows a sniper to free fire, or B. panic to eliminate the sniper, so rush in from a bad position and get whacked in the process. Being afraid of getting sniped creates an invisible pressure, where the sniper may not even be looking your way, but the perceived threat can be paralyzing. Whether you play a defensive poker, leaning on the back fence like Medvedev, or an offensive poker actively probing your weakness like Djokovic, the urge to attack an opponent who is totally comfortable taking little to no risk is juxtaposed against the fear of attacking straight into a deadly counterpunch. Either option seems unpleasant. The Diver Effect. Believe it or not, the diver wants the opponent to feel safe, which is a subset of not being ready. Think shotgunner who sneaks around the enemy sightlines and finishes with a single burst. It's paramount that a flanker not alert the enemy defenses, so does not peek corners or shoot to engage the fight prematurely. Feeling safe lures the enemy out of hiding and lowers their guard, as it's human nature to fall into patterns. Ball number 1 and ball number 2 struck with low energy desensitizes the opponent to aggression. Then on ball number 3, you've already seen a few pitches and can line up a home run. It's impossible for players to be vigilant all the time in safe conditions, because defense in part is a survival mechanism when we sense danger. Nick Kyrgios massages the ball half the time before an explosive move out of nowhere begins to snowball the point. The threat of finishing makes the opponent exercise options they would have preferred with more time. Regardless of the type of pressure, the result is either more errors for them or winners for you. But to recap, brawlers looking to maximize damage create constant pressure with a clear time limit. Pokers looking to bait and counter create a fight or flight pressure that forces a decision. Divers looking to lull the opponent to sleep create a pressure that comes with uncertainty. Evidently, the vast majority of players are victims of habit, gravitating to whatever shots feel good or looks aesthetically pleasing. Too many divers start hitting hard randomly, which alerts the defense. Too many pokers start playing overly consistent and forget about the hard punish. And too many brawlers start hitting too close to the lines without setting up points properly, which means risk with no reward. What occurs is randomness that moves them off the straight line from point A to B. With a very high level of clarity, you will reach your goal far faster than those flying blind, aka when every shot you hit has a clear purpose, your opponent will feel way more pressure, and that translates to winning.